That's not a very good sales pitch. So create some leverage, create some clarity, create some organization in your business. Hey everyone, welcome to Core 90 Training with the community here at eXp Realty. And I am so very excited about today because today we're talking about one of my very favorite business concepts, which is leverage. And understanding how to properly lever inside of your business to provide leverage is a very important part of scaling. And ultimately, you're going to hit a point in your operational dynamics, I hope for you, that you need some help. You need to bring strong professionals alongside you in partnership with you and your business to help you to grow, to take administrative tasks and to streamline that process to free you up to be bringing in new business, right? Creating income producing activities and to create new revenue. And that can be an ecosystem that works very well, both for that administrative personality and also for the sales personality. But it can also go really badly. So we're going to talk about both today, how to make it work and how to make it, what to avoid, I guess we could say. And so for those of you who haven't really thought much about this, though, we just thought, what a great opportunity to speak with some top-level professionals. And so I sent out some feelers, and actually our great leader and good friend, Jake Rockwell, said, I've got two people you've got to talk to. And so I'm going to bring them up here on stage because we're going to talk a little bit today about how to do this the right way. What does it even mean to leverage? I hear a lot of agents talk about this, and then there are some preconceived notions about what's really happening or how it, quote unquote, should work, and maybe a lack of understanding on how the very best people in the industry truly do this type of leverage. And so we've got two of the best today with us. Renee Jones comes to us from the Rockwell Group, and I think she's there in the office today, it looks like, or she has the coolest house I've ever seen with a conference room in it. And Renee, I'll let you unmute yourself, but really quickly, we were kind of chatting in the green room before we came out here, and my understanding was that you did, and I wrote it down, 20 to 40 new listings in a month, and you've done like 8 in a single day before. And this is broker loading, doing all of the paperwork. That is mind blowing to me. That's huge.
Yeah, they keep me busy around here for sure.
That's awesome. And so what is the official capacity of your role in what you do there with Rockwell?
So I do admin side of things as well, and then I do full listing coordination. And we can dive deeper into that, but it's literally every single step of the process when it comes to listings. So yeah.
Awesome. So you're definitely not a very organized person.
No,
you don't know where. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we'll cover that in a minute. By the way, for anyone watching this, there is a certain type of, let's call it a behavioral or a professional profile for a type of person who can do the type of work that Renee, for instance, does and not drown at sea.
Yeah.
And I am not that profile. I would fail absolutely miserably doing your job. So I huge respect, and we'll cover more what that is. And then let's bring up on stage Jennifer Wood, and Jennifer owns and operates Expert TC. For anyone who's seen her out there in the marketplace, that's awesome. And I'll let you unmute yourself. But also, when we were pre-gaming on this, Jennifer shared with me, and I wrote it down. So let's see. She has a couple times actually been doing the full transaction coordination for 150 transactions at a time. Did I write that down correctly?
You did.
That is awful. I just got a headache thinking about that. If you say 1.5,
it's really awesome, actually.
Okay, so you're clearly also more organized than I am because I'm a shit show. So that would totally sink my battleship. That's awesome. So that's incredible. And Jennifer, talk to me really quickly. Expert TC, is that transaction coordination? Is it listing management? Is it kind of all of the above? How do you work?
It is all of the above. So we help with transactions and we help with listings and turning your listing into a transaction. So your work for hire? Absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. So we'll talk more about that later too. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of people at the end of this who are like, oh, maybe I need some help.
Absolutely. I hope
good.
So.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's kind of zoom out on this really quickly. and we'll understand like the life cycle of a transaction and an agent. We just went through 8 weeks of talking about the anatomy of a transaction, which is awesome. Ultimately, the single most predictive thing of success in having a transaction is finding a client to begin with, right? And that is something that we're going to leave to salespeople to go out and find transactions and bring them in. What I find is many times agents are great at people work, but they suck at paperwork. Is that a fair statement? I mean, you guys see this all the time, and I'm not asking you to knock anybody, but I'll out myself. I'm horrible at paperwork. What do you think, Jennifer?
That's 100% true. I don't think that God gives us both hands. It's one of those situations where, and I've gone over this with my agents so many times, I'm like, listen, you need to go out in the field and do what you're good at, and I'm going to be behind the scenes doing what I'm good at. And it complements, we complement each other. So yeah, that's definitely true.
So, and let me ask a question, because this is maybe one of my own misgivings, because we tend to take our own thoughts, feelings, and emotions and project them onto other people. Does the work that you're doing, you're carrying 150 transactions, does that make you happy?
Yes.
Awesome. See, this is what's great about it, because I would be like, well, I think I'm just going to check out on life. If I had that much going on, like, yeah, I guess the income would be good, but holy moly, it would drive me nuts. And Renee, same question then. So like for you, when you're doing the work that you do and you're creating organization from chaos, let's call it what it is. Does that make you happy? Is that fulfilling?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. See, so and that's what's really exciting about this is there's a behavioral profile for that. What I find a lot of times with agents is they're great chaos makers, right? They go out and they create a huge mess, right? And then the sad part is when we're acting as a solo agent sometimes, right? And we hit a certain threshold, we've created enough chaos and we don't know actually how to clarify it. And this is where deals sometimes go to die, right? Unfortunately, good transactions get lost in the machine, let's call it, right? Simply because agents miss deadlines, they miss paperwork, they file things wrong, they forget to sign stuff, they don't send the right addenda, they don't send something on time, right? There's a lot of timeline stuff. I know that's a really big one. Jennifer's nodding like, timelines. I'm sure you like live by your calendars, both of you. And so that can be a real stress point. What I like, and I'm passionate about leverage. I'm passionate about team building. I'm passionate about helping people to scale up and create a big business. What's interesting is you hit a certain point and you need leverage. You need to create systems. And it's really taking something that is a whole and saying this whole pie has gotten much bigger. And instead of fighting over who gets more slices, let's just make the pizza bigger and then let's chop up the slices and bring people in. Emily Stagg already says I need a TC. She's already sold. That's great. We'll get you in touch with Jennifer by the end of the session here, Emily. So talk to me a little bit, and let's start high level, and then we can dig into details. And let me think. Let's start on. I'll start with you, Jennifer, on the transaction coordination side of things. I'm a solo agent. I've never used a TC before. How does that process begin? What are we really doing when we start working together, you and I?
Well, initially, I want to have a conversation with the agent. Most of the time it's not in person because we have agents throughout the entire state and other states as well. So it's really important just to have that communication and set expectations. They need to set expectations for us. We need to set expectations for them. And sometimes they're like, why are you setting expectations for us? Well, because in order for us to work together, we need those set in place, and you need to know what I expect and I need to know what you expect. The first few transactions are always bumpy, and it's important for us to explain that to the agent before they start, because it's a trial and error time. It's one of those situations where if you're not telling me what I'm doing that you don't want me to do, or you want me to do something that I'm not doing, if you don't communicate those with me, I have no idea. So that's the biggest conversation we have at the very beginning is we need to work together and communicate a lot. After that, it's a little bit smoother. And as the process goes on and we're in, the fourth and fifth transaction, generally we have a pretty good idea of how to work with each other. And it makes things a lot easier. But if those lines of communication are open throughout the entire transaction on every single transaction, things get sticky and they get missed, or the agent sending something out and then I'm sending something out and then it looks like we're not communicating.
Right.
So those are the most important things at the very beginning, just to communicate with us. I encourage my agents to try to put as much on us as they can. So when you need an addendum, tell me. Most of the time there's going to be, addendums like, hey, we need an extension for an inspection period. And we can see that. We'll reach out to them and say, do you want us to send this out? Maybe they've already sent it out. I don't know. But at this point, it's just one of those things like we're trying to keep each other on the same page.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. So Renee, I'm going to pass to you. So let's imagine it's my very first day, and I know you're in a team environment, but let's just speak to this position, right? And so it's my first day. I'm coming in. I'm going to take a bunch of listings because I'm an awesome listing agent, and I'm working with you. How does that process look, or what are the expectations back and forth as we start working together? How do you onboard somebody into your ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Jennifer. It's really important to set those expectations for each other. It's a little different because agents can drop in the office and I'm here all day. But we do have people, Willamette Valley, we have a coastal team in Arizona too. So I really like to have them drop in, a phone call or a Zoom, and go over that process with them and make sure that nothing's missed, no steps are being taken. Because I think that's super important. And then the systems just kind of flow after that, after the third or fourth one. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
And I love the acknowledgement from both of you that it's like at the beginning, this might be a little sloppy because we're learning how to do a three-legged race here. Right? We're not going to win the Olympics on the first try.
And that's totally fine. Yeah, we don't expect them to be perfect. So
I love that. I love that. Well, and also walking through expectations, bilateral, let's call it expectation, so both directions, is important, right? Here's what I need from you as the agent. Here's what you need from me. And also let's communicate about unique expectations, right? Some agents might want a lot less. They're like, listen, I don't need you to touch that. I've got a whole system and a process for that, and I like doing it. Okay, great. Some of them might be like, please make it so I never have to touch another piece of paper or DocuSign or whatever ever again, right? Like, okay, fine, we'll figure it out. That's really interesting. And so, okay, so if I'm an agent, and by the way, just for people who are just joining us, for clarification, Renee handles both administrative tasks and also listing coordination. Rockwell Group does what? Anywhere from 300 to 500 plus transactions a year. That's a ton of volume coming through. Jennifer's handling up to 150 deals at a time, 8 escrow cycles in a year. I can do some math. That puts you at roughly 1,000 transactions per year that you're probably putting your hands on, okay? So that's a lot. I mean, we're talking about touching a lot. Can anyone on this call imagine handling 500 to 1,000 transactions in a year? It's like that instantly causes a bit of a stress reaction inside of me. And so to find people who thrive in that environment is amazing. Let's talk about if I'm a solo agent. So Jennifer, I'm going to come back to you. I'm a solo agent and I'm now looking to scale up, right? Sometimes a mistake that I see made much too soon by agents is I'm going to go hire a full-time team in every direction because I did 30 deals last year. It's like, you're not ready for that. No offense to anyone who did that. And that's great. It's really good production, but full-time staff means full-time compensation, and you've got FICA and all the stuff that's got to go out. Social Security, you got to start paying your dues to have full-time employees. But what I like about what you've done with your business with Expert TC is it's a pay-to-play business model. Am I correct with that?
Correct.
Okay. And are you licensed? We didn't ask this beforehand. Awesome. That's very cool. So I prefer that, by the way. That's always been my preference. So terrific. And so if somebody comes to you, do you mind sharing? What's your business model? What's your economic model? Somebody comes in, I want you to start handling TC for me. How do I pay you?
Payment goes through escrow. So as long as the agent's paid through escrow, meaning and on occasion this happens, there's maybe an advance taken or a garnishment, it happens. Then we're just paid directly through escrow. We're on the commission demand. It'll show us on there, and that's taken care of.
Right. So you're paid on performance, which is awesome, by the way. For anyone who's not tracking on this, in your business, there are two types of costs, right? There's fixed costs. That's like the tide that keeps coming in and washing a little bit of the shore away. For me, that's your Netflix bill, right? Like that comes in every month, and no matter what, you're paying them $15, or it's probably $150. I haven't checked it recently. I don't know what the heck they're charging these days. But right, like, so that's just cost. And in your business, that could be an office lease. It could be whatever, lead gen costs. There's all sorts of things that are just cyclical and it comes in every 30 days. Versus paid on performance, right? This is like splits with agents on your team. This could be splits in this case with a transaction coordinator. Do you operate on a flat fee or a percentage-based model?
Flat fee.
Awesome. Also my preference. Great. Do you differentiate between buyers and listings, or do you handle them in the same way?
They're the same way. Obviously the paperwork aspect of things it's a little bit different if you have a seller in escrow versus a buyer, but it's the same model.
Nice. And so can I ask, what is the fee?
For transactions, we charge $350.
Nice. That's very appropriate. So just to put that into perspective, let's run a little bit of math, guys. And I want to break this down because sometimes people are like, well, it's not affordable and I can't do that. And I just want you to be thinking about math differently. So average price point in a lot of markets around the United States, let's just call it 450,000. And let's just say you're getting 2.5 points on that. We're not trying to fix commission. I'm just using this for math examples. Okay. That means the gross commission is 11,250. Let's say that you're uncapped. So you're going to make 80% of that. So you're going to make $9,000 and you're going to pay 350 of that. So your remainder is 8,650. Jennifer will do 150 transactions at a time. She's going to be able to pay her mortgage. But on the other side, you now can have high leverage in your business, which will free up time. Let's talk about the classic mistake. The classic mistake is I've cleaned up my calendar and now I'm not having to spend as much time in my paperwork. So now I'm going to do what? Watch Hulu, right? Watch cat videos on no, you can't do that, right? This is your opportunity to double or triple down on what? Somebody put it in the chat for me. I just want to make sure that we're conscious in the chat, right? If you've created a lot of time leverage, what should you be using all of that extra time for in your business? I see Ray Coburn on here. I know that guy knows. What's he at? Lead gen. Thank you, Kaylin. Kaylin DSCs. All right. Awesome. Yes. Lead gen. Absolutely. Why? Because we want to create even more transactions and then pass those on to Jennifer. So that'd be great, right? We're going to scale. This is all about scaling our business. Scaling our business doesn't mean sinking your battleship and creating a loss leader. It means literally creating time leverage so that that additional time can be used to create additional what? Units, transactions. That's awesome. Renee, talk to me a little bit though. So now, because you operate in two worlds, right? You operate from an administrative stance inside the team, and you help to run the team. And then the other thing that you do is listing coordination. Split those into two categories for me and start with the admin piece, because this is also a classic miss. And I know that the Rockwell Group is one of the best teams in the country. You guys run really well. What do you do on the admin side of things on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Yeah, so most of it does go hand in hand, just being there to support the agents. I mean, I'm always there for any questions or anything they need. I also help with onboarding. So I onboard agents, help them get started, get their headshots, get them on the website. So that side of things as well. And then obviously any side task that Jake needs, clean up, anything like that in our systems. And then also then the listing side. So it's definitely helpful because I'm pretty much there from step one and then until they get listings and then helping them through that too.
Sometimes exclusion is a helpful way to learn. So tell me really quickly, what are a few things that you don't do in your position?
I don't do the transaction side of things.
Sure.
Anything when it comes to EXP specifically, we do have somebody in office that helps with that. So I just kind of help with the team aspect of things.
Nice. So specific to the internal operations of the team, high leverage for Jake. And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Jake's the owner on the team, or the rainmaker, whatever positional title you choose for that. Professional golf guy. And then I wrote it down: supporting agents, onboarding, headshots, websites, side tasks, cleanup systems. I find that a lot of that systems oriented task management can be really, really important at an admin level. Okay, now let's change hats. Now we're going to listing coordination. What does a listing coordinator do?
Yeah, so I actually have this checklist.
Do you want to do screen share?
The agents that I'm just going to drop it in the chat so people have it.
Nice. I love it. We might use this as a visual.
That should work. So everything on there is our systems and in order of what we do. And in the red is what the agent does. Obviously, awesome. We have to communicate and work together on it. But yeah, there's only a few things that the agents do when it comes to listings.
So for anyone who's not, and by the way, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm just making sure. So look at this, everybody. This is, first off, this is called an SOP, or a standard operating procedure. And what you'll notice is it's not super fancy. This is a checklist, straight up checklist. Does it work? Abso-freaking-lutely. Is it broken down based on who does what? Yes, which is very nice, by the way. As you start adding leverage into your business, it's nice to have an understanding for who does what. If you've never spent time around military folks, I never served in the military, but a lot of my family were military. And what's interesting is the military operates this way. Everything is a list. Everything is assigned to a human being or to a position, right? And that position then operates within this role. And ultimately, by the way, it's best to build your business around a position and tasks for that position, because as much as I don't ever want Renee to get hit by a bus, Renee could get hit by a bus, right? And we got to then plug someone immediately into that position and have an understanding of how that works. So look at this. Enter things into Sisu. By the way, Sisu is a like a Gecko board solution, so you can see the numbers for your business. Very cool software solution. Go check it out. And then we've got ordering different types of documents or flyers, folders, making a potential folder, preparing listing docs, filling out sheets, signing the listing. Look at all this. This is all being leveraged so that agents aren't having to necessarily do this work. They can pass it off within the team environment. Now, if you're not ready for this in the leverage within your own team or your own business, then that's fine. Guess who does this work? You. It still needs to be done. Can you build an SOP? Heck yes. By the way, stop forgetting steps in your own business. If there's something you have to do more than twice, you should write it down, and it should be part of your operating procedure so you don't forget it anymore. This is very easy. It could even be it doesn't have to be as fancy as this one. My point is, it could be what do they call it? Google Sheets. That'd be very easy. Just use it as a checklist. After it goes live, post to Craigslist, social media. I like socials. That's hilarious. I heard somebody recently say socio media. It's like a sociopath. Anyway, all right. Send thank you emails. Look at this, guys. This is fantastic. The lock needs to go up. Yeah, exactly. And then Renee, she's doing listing support, MLS, RVAR. So not everybody's in the same, we got people in Georgia and stuff. So this is just your association of realtors, your MLS, all that kind of stuff. SkySlope, that's our transaction management. If anybody's visiting us from another brokerage, join EXP and get some SkySlope. And then any and all other admin related support. We go over here, look, another person. Oh, Jen, you're on here. Dang, girl, you're everywhere. So Jen's doing offers, terminations, rejected offers, addenda, accepted offers. Incredible, right? We've got JJ, another person on the team. They're writing offers, contracts, questions. Look at this, guys. This is built out so that you can see a full, and this is on one page. Does this create clarity in your world when you have that? And by the way, everybody, this document is available in the chat. And we'll also put it when we post this on YouTube. So Renee, was this already in place when you joined the team, or did you help to develop this?
We definitely had systems and people that were in charge of certain things, but yeah, we definitely honed in on it and made it a little more easier for especially new agents. They come in and they're like, well, who's in charge of this? Who's in charge of that? So, and we've definitely learned that one page is the way to go, because people will actually read it and hang on to it. And so just make it easy and simple. And if they have any other questions, they can always just let us know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And I see questions, by the way, coming up, and some of them are really good here all of them are really good here in the chat, but I'm seeing some really good ones. One of the questions that Kaylin asked was, so if you're charging $350 and then you double end a deal, does that now double it? Which, by the way, would be totally appropriate from my perspective, right? You're getting double comp on that deal. good for you. Yeah, you could pay double. But Jennifer's so awesome. She does $500 instead of $350 times 2. So you're saving significant, about what, $200 in that situation. So it's a very appropriate model. You got to do a cost of living adjustment every year, Jennifer. Make sure you stay up with pricing. So that's good. But it's totally appropriate, right, guys? In my perspective, I just want everyone to know, I would pay $1,000 per deal to have all of my paperwork and administration taken off my chest, and it would not bother me at all. At all. Why? Because I don't want to do it. I want to spend all my time on the phone talking to people so that I can create more deals. That's it. And I just know that that's how my business has always worked. And if I'm on the phone with more people, I will simply create more income. If I create more income, I've got more to share. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. Some agents get a little bit more like freaked out. The very best thing that you can do, if you're an agent watching this today, by the way, create a budget in your business. If you haven't done that, go back. We have sessions on creating budgets for agents. They're incredible. Create a budget. Understand where your money's really going in your business, cut all of the waste, and then go call Jennifer today, right? Like literally call Saul, better call Jennifer, right? You should create some leverage in your business. And if you've never tried this, the very best time to try it is immediately. Honestly, just try it, because you may screw it up and it may suck and it may not be for you, quote unquote, all that stuff. I get it. But I will also tell you, you're probably wrong, and it probably is for you. And the second you start getting this as a part of your habit and routine, and then force yourself, get on the phone, talk to more people. In the time where you're like, I would have been doing paperwork right now. Awesome. Talk to more people. Oh, I would have been filling out an addenda right now. Awesome. Talk to people. Right? And that's the way that this can work. Okay, so Jennifer, now let's get into the nitty gritty. And this is where it gets really fun, because I know everyone loves spreadsheets, checklists, and everyone has a process. Jennifer, walk me through your process so that people understand how much leverage is coming at the level of that 350 investment into themselves.
Well, I'll just start from the beginning. So the beginning process, I have a form which feeds into my spreadsheet, because yes, I love spreadsheets. And so that automatically notifies my team that, hey, you have a new escrow or you have a new listing, whichever it might be. And then we just run with it from there. I do ask for our agents to give us a vendor list so we can help setting up inspections and, take that off your plate as well. Some send them, some like to set them up on their own still. And so the process can vary for each agent on what it looks like initially, but that form is for everyone to fill out. It's the same form every single time. I ask everybody, just save that link and send it over. There's a spot for you to attach documents on there. It's going to ask you the general questions, especially now that with the commission changes. Also, there's some really important questions that need to be answered on that form. How much commission is being paid? Is your buyer paying for any of this commission? Because we need to make sure that we get the correct amount on that buyer's agreement to send out, and to make sure that we have that uploaded into SkySlope. It's going to ask if you want us to order inspections. Is there anything specific to the transaction that we need to know about? Is there a power of attorney? Has someone passed away? Because the last thing we want to do is go and say something insensitive, and it just starts everything. It's not fun. So then, of course, attach those documents. If you don't attach them, please send them over, because otherwise we don't have them. I will dig around in your SkySlope forms to try to find them. If I can't find them, obviously I'm going to be pestering you until I get them. And then we open escrow. So we send out intro emails to everybody, your client, the agent on the other side. We send out an email to the lender, assuming we have the buyer, and also to escrow. We set up a calendar, and from that point, we'll go in, set up all of your SkySlope. I make sure that your SkySlope forms is all set up properly, whether you're using it or not, we're using it. So everybody's going to be included in that list to make sure that they're getting copies of what they need. And then we'll set up the inspections if those are requested. But that's just kind of the initial process. And we will spam your email at first, because you're going to get about 3 to 4 emails from us just back to back. And hopefully you guys will get used to those. Most of the time the agents aren't bothered by them, so it's not usually a big deal, but that's the beginning process of what it looks like. And a lot of agents get confused with the inspection portion. They'll ask us to order, and then they'll order as well. So just again, communication is key with everything that we're doing. Just
Right.
if you want us to order, let us know. If not, we won't. And it's just kind of, and then you just let us know what we need from that point on. We'll go out, we'll go and send all the initial documents out as well. So if you don't have your disclosed limited agency, which you should have already, but if you don't, we will send it. Your ABA, your wire fraud, just all those initial documents that we need to make sure that your file is complete. And hopefully the very beginning, you're already ready for closing SkySlope wise. That's what we like to see. So
I love that. Which, by the way, reduces your fail rate on transactions, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, even if let's say you're doing 2 deals a month, you're not Jake Rockwell. You're not doing 500 deals with a big team and all this kind of stuff, right? That's great. You're doing 2 deals a month. If you could salvage 1 deal that might have fallen out, that is more than worth its weight in gold, guys, to keep things with another pair of eyes, a partner in your corner working with you, who's like their core skill set is being organized. And let's be honest, most of the agents on here probably try hard to be organized, but they're better, and I said this earlier, they're better at people work than paperwork, right? And I think that that's great. It's okay to have people with complementary skill sets. In fact, a lot of times marriages are that way, right? One person talks more, the other person listens more. That could be a great fit. And so it's weird if you get 2 people who like to listen, because then it's just quiet, right? Or something. And so let me ask you this though, Jennifer, specifically, and then Renee, will come to you. So Jennifer, what is your favorite, describe your dream agent, somebody working with you, but they're just dreamy. And I don't mean they're attractive. I just mean they're killing it in terms of working with you, right? Like, who's your dreamy agent? Like, when you go to sleep at night and you're like, oh, if I could have that client, that'd be my dream client. Describe that profile, because this will help people to see, like, how should they engage with you?
Communication. Emails are always best because those stay in our inbox. I go through them in the order they come in. They don't leave the inbox until they're taken care of. That's one of my biggest things, is just emails. Just again, communication, just making sure that you're keeping us in the loop. And if you are sending things out, that you're letting us know, because otherwise we have no clue they're out there. But my dream agent would be, just let me take over your whole SkySlope forms. Once that offer is accepted, please don't touch the file. Let me take care of it. That's my baby. And it's just one of those, it's so much easier to have just my team in SkySlope managing it and uploading and writing addendums and everything, because again, we're 100% in the loop at that point.
Yeah.
That's really my dream agent. Just please,
I love it.
Let me take care of your paperwork.
I love it. And then Renee, what about you?
Yeah, I would totally agree. We have systems in place for a reason. They work. So an agent that can go with the systems, let me take care of everything, and just communicates back. If I shoot you a text or email, you're responding. And if we need something from you, you can get that to us in a timely manner. Also, an agent that isn't afraid to ask questions before it gets to an oh shit moment. That is also super helpful. That's awesome. But yeah, just communicating. And then honestly, if you just go with the systems, it works for you. That's what they're there for. So
yeah. Part of the training that I would do in our team, previously ran a team, and is I would say to agents, I'd say, listen, you're a runner, you're a sprinter. That's awesome. And we want you to go fast. However, if you were running in the Olympics, we'd put you on a track and there would be these things, these lines, and you'd have to run between the lines. You can run as fast as you want, but you still got to stay between the lines. And if you cross the lines, you're out of the race, right? And those lines are systems. Those lines are processes that we've built to help you to compete even more aggressively. It doesn't slow you down, it speeds you up, right? It would be total chaos if at the Olympics they're like, all right, everyone run as fast as they can in any direction, go. That would just be people headbutting each other and passing out. It'd be hilarious. It'd probably be a drinking game eventually. But nonetheless, it's not good sports. And so in this case, for agents, if you want to go faster, what you need is to take some of the things that are leg weighting you, that are slowing you down, and to start to place them off. Now, let me ask the correlating question, because this is my other favorite one. And Jennifer, I'll start with you. What is your least favorite type of agent or agent behavior to work with? What are the things that drive you bananas and make you want to light your hair on fire?
What Renee said, just asking questions. Because if you don't know how to do it, odds are you may not do it right. And just ask. Because nearly every agent has had to ask these questions. So Renee and I are prepared for the question, and we want to help you succeed and do things properly. And it's very important for them to, sometimes I'm sure it's intimidating, because they have agents around them that already know all these things, and maybe they feel like they shouldn't ask the question, but they should, because they're still learning. And it's so important for them to get the right answer the first time and know how to do things, versus doing them wrong, and then everybody's trying to correct it, but they still think they're doing it the right way. So just communicating or not communicating would be one of my big pet peeves. And
couldn't agree more.
Ask questions.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of times you do see a resistance. It's an ego thing, by the way. That's what it is, just in case anyone doesn't know. It's ego when you don't ask a question, and your ego is not your amigo. And so what you need to do is ask the damn question instead of making a mistake. I promise you. By the way, in my top production year, we were closing like 160, 200 transactions, something like that. And I would call all the time our state broker. I would call the MLS. Everyone probably thought I was a total idiot. I didn't care. I was just doing a lot of deals, and I didn't want to screw things up. And it's easier to ask a question than it is to fix a mistake. And I know you guys, that has to resonate with you, Jennifer and Renee. It's much easier just to ask the question and get it right the first time than to do it twice, right? It's what's the old expression in construction? Do it right or do it twice. And so that's it. We'd rather just do it right. How do you do that? Ask a question. Be dumb. It's okay. Hey guys, I'm a dumbass. I don't know. How do I do this? It's much easier to answer that question or to send you a document that already answers that question than it is to fix the junk mess that you just created on the heels of that. Okay, so Renee, what's your least favorite agent profile or agent behavior that shows up sometimes? And to quote Steve on here, he said, "No names, please."
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Steve, I'm using your name, buddy.
Yeah, I definitely would piggyback off Jen. Communication is key. Also, just being disorganized is a big no-no in real estate. So when you need something and they're like, "Well, I don't know where that is," I'm like, "Well, just send it to me from the get-go and I'll file it for you, or, keep a hold of it." So I think that's the only thing that we kind of run into that definitely can drive you nuts a little bit, especially when you are super type A and like to be organized. But yeah.
Well, I love that. And there's two types of type A, right? Like there's type A people who are strong organizational skill, and they're like dogmatic about, almost get angry. In fact, I find that sometimes people who have an administrative profile will get angry if you are disorganized, and especially if that leaches into their world, right? I'm positive that that resonates with both of you, because I've had time now to get to know you, and yeah, you're laughing, so I know it. But don't do that, by the way. As it turns out, agents, if you want to get paid more, be more organized. It's amazing how much those things align. In real estate, this is not just like, everyone loves me. That's why I do love it. That's why you're doing one deal a month. Like, if everybody loves you, that's great. But if everybody loves you and you're tanking transactions because you can't keep track of your inbox, or because you have 65,000 unread emails, get a hold of things, right? You're a mess. You're a hot mess, in fact, if you have that. And so fix it. And by the way, Joanne Graham just wrote this in the chat. It's awesome. She said her mom used to say, so Joanne's mom, woohoo, props. She said, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? Dude, that is an awesome question. I'm saving that, putting that in the memory banks. That's a great one. If you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? Joanne's mom, high five. Okay, so is that a powerful question? Of course it is. And so why do we build leverage? For instance, transaction coordination, listing management, administration in the team. Now, let me ask you guys this, and this is an opinion-based thing, so there's no right or wrong answer, but I'd love to know your opinion. Jennifer, when do you think an agent, when is it appropriate for an agent to start exploring bringing a transaction coordinator into their business?
I think it varies with every agent.
Great answer.
It depends on what your goals are. So I personally, if I were just doing agent work, I would probably talk to a TC immediately so I could get a good feel of what is needed and when I should start using one, and just kind of go from there. But again, everybody has different goals, so it's going to vary for everyone. But
I love that.
do it initially.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I saw Ray Coburn. He posted after 5 close. I know my wife, for instance, she says after 10 close. I think that there is an appropriate amount of transactional volume that you should do at the beginning. There's no specific number, but let's just say somewhere 5 to 10. You should do some of your own deals first. I was a dummy when I started. I used a TC on like deal number 1. I'm not sure that I've ever filled out a piece of paper. And so, yeah, you're laughing. It's a little scary how little I know about real estate. So, but what's funny is I used it too soon, and did it create some black holes in my business? Yes, it created some problems because you can't manage what you haven't mastered. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't mean that I need to be the world's best TC. I'm Jennifer Wood doing 150 deals at a time. That's insane. I can't do that. I just tell you right now, I could train and I couldn't do that. However, should I know the basics of a transaction start to finish so that I can start having an understanding for what comes next and I'm not being a leg weight, frankly, on Jennifer and her business? Yes. Is my opinion, at least. You should have had done a little bit of your own transactional work. Renee, for you, in terms of listing coordination, now, a lot of times listing coordination is not outsourced. Jennifer, I'll be interested to learn a little bit more about that, how you do outsource that. Renee, we'll talk through what listing coordination is in a moment, because we haven't actually broken that down fully, I don't believe. But in terms of bringing in an admin or bringing in a listing coordinator into your business, when, from your perspective, when might that be appropriate for an agent? Is it a certain number of units? Is it a size of GCI? Is it full-time? Is it part-time? How do you see that, just from your seat?
That's a hard one, because I think it goes off of your personality and what you can handle and when you do need the help. Obviously, we have a team setting, so you get it from day one with the Rockwell group. But like you're saying, Jen does do listing coordination for solo agents, which is super helpful. But I think it just goes off your personality of what you can handle and when you need the help, so then you can do more volume.
Yeah. So actually, between the both of you, let's talk about listing coordination. I find it's one of the more often misunderstood sets of behaviors inside of whether it's a team or a solo agent practice. Listing coordination, everyone on this call should understand a listing is different than a buyer. Listings have different requirements. There's additional paperwork requirements in particular that can bog down a transaction. There are fewer in-person, there's less people work, let's call it, right? I don't have to show 25 houses if I'm taking a listing, which is beautiful, right? So I can hold a higher number of listings. However, on the paperwork side, there is more administration required for that. What does a listing coordinator do? And either of you can start first, or say, you guys work closely together, so this is it should be the same answer more or less. But I'm curious, just answer that question. What does a listing coordinator do?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So kind of just going through that checklist. I mean, the Rockwell group specifically definitely probably goes a little more in depth than Jennifer does when it comes to, coordinating photography and a sign runner and lockbox and all that. But from the beginning, you fill out that form for us of just the basic information, and we get all your listing docs ready for you, fill them out, send them out, upload them into SkySlope, get it prepared, get it into MLS, send you a preview, get it on the market. And then I don't know if Jennifer does this, but the Rockwell group specifically then markets it on social media as well.
So literally soup to nuts. We're talking listing paperwork, broker loading the file online to make sure that we get on the MLS correctly and everything's live when it's supposed to. Are you tracking those timelines? So, I mean, if the client says we don't want to go live until next Thursday, I have the paperwork today, you're going to track that and it's just going to happen magically?
Yeah, so in our form that they fill out, we do have a notes section. So if you need it wet signed and you need to print it out, we'll print it out. highlight it for you, get that ready. If you're like, don't send this out until next week, I'll put it on my calendar, send it out next week. Usually it is the same day or the next day people want it sent out. But if there's any special notes like that, the agent will let me know. Again, just communication.
What if the agent missed something? Like let's say that they're out there.
Email or call from me.
You're laughing because it happens all the time. Yeah. And so do any of the agents in your team, for instance, ever, or some of them doing listing contracts by hand, old school paperwork style?
Some, but we'll still get that prepared for you.
Sure. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So all they've got to do is just get wedding signatures at that point.
Yep.
I had a lot of old clients, and a lot of my older clients, people in their 80s and 90s just love a good piece of paper. There's just something
mail them out, get them signed, mail them back in. So I get it. Yeah.
I'm kind of an old soul. I like paper. I like to I like to show off how sloppy my signature is. I got a doctor's signature, so it's very it's very aggressive. So that's awesome. What about you, Jennifer? Anything that you wanted to add to that? Like in terms of listing coordination, and part of the reason I'm drilling into this, just so everyone understands, is there are people on this call who are thinking, maybe I'll go build a big team, right? And as you build that team, initially you might have a single administrative person, and that person is going to be, and this is a very serious word, overworked, guaranteed from day one, because you are going to be combining 3 to 4 jobs into one person, especially when you're in that early stage scale up. So by the way, compensate appropriately. And I mean that because that person's taken a lot of kind of frontline fire, right? Operation Human Shield there to protect you from your business. And so make sure that they're well paid. But beyond that, then eventually we're going to hire separate people for separate jobs, right? A plumber's not an electrician, right? They're both a contractor, but these are different jobs. Same thing inside a real estate team. So talk about listing coordination. When you do that work, Jennifer, when you're doing it outsourced, that's interesting to me because I've never outsourced listing coordination. What are you doing?
Essentially, we're doing a lot of what Renee is doing. We don't order your photos. So that's one of the things on the list, and we don't set up the sign and lockbox. So we prep the listing documents. Sometimes agents, I also have a form for that, which feeds into my spreadsheet. And then we get a notification, and sometimes they're just asking for paperwork. Maybe it's not an actual listing yet. They're going on the listing appointment. So we prep all of the listing paperwork, send it all over to them, and including the data sheet from whichever MLS that they're wanting to put it in. So then we'll send that all over. They'll have it reviewed. Sometimes they'll get that signed in person. Other times they'll email us back and say, this looks great. Please send it out for signatures. And then we'll do that. We'll monitor the signature process, making sure everybody's signing. And then we get that back. We start our SkySlope file. At that point, we'll then send out disclosures because I don't like to bombard them with the disclosures and all of the listing documents all at once because it's overwhelming. So, and I like to use Breeze for disclosures. It's just so much more friendly. And so then we'll send those out, get all that process started. We have Google calendar invites for the live dates, for the expire dates. So we'll get those out, and those will go to the agent as well. And then we'll continue monitoring for the live date, ask for photos and marketing, and get those all uploaded. And then once that's done, we'll have the agent review it one more time before going live. And then we like to set up a weekly email to the agent. Sometimes that's how they prefer it, is for it to go to them and then they forward it to their client. Other times we'll just put the client on there if that's what they're requesting.
I love that. Yeah. So if you're the type of agent on here where you're like, I'm carrying a bunch of listings and I'm doing great, and I were to ask you, how many of your listings did you talk to in the last 7 days? And the answer is none. You need to call Jennifer immediately. Because they should be hearing from someone in your team, right? And look, outsourced is still a team, right? I remember when I got started and I was really building, and originally I didn't have anybody. There was not a lot of internal leverage, but I was still I was my own team, right? And what did I do? I just bolted on through partnerships and JVs and outsourcing and a bunch of things, right? You bolt on strategically so that you can build your capacity, and then eventually you might in-house things as it's appropriate. And as it's appropriate, just so everyone knows, means when it costs less to in-house it than it does to outsource. And I'll also be honest, right now, if I were to go build a team tomorrow, I would outsource everything forever, period, end of story. Because I like just being able to hold an outsourced person accountable. And that sounds scary, but I don't mean it scary. Like Jennifer is obviously incredible. We would hardly ever have to talk because she's going to be better at her job than I am going to be at managing her job. Does that make sense? So it's all about hiring the right people. And for anyone who doesn't know, she mentioned something. She said, Breeze. I like to use Breeze. What is Breeze? So Breeze is part of SkySlope here. If you're already with EXP, you already have access to this conceptually here. But anyway, go check it out. It's breeze.skyslope.com, and it's for disclosure. Talk to me a little bit about what does that do for disclosures, and why do you like it so much, Jennifer?
It's so much more user-friendly. I've found that actual clients have said this is so nice and easy to use. So I started using it, I want to say about 2 years ago. And
would you say that it's a breeze to you? Keep going.
So, but yeah, I started using it about 2 years ago. It doesn't work for the new forms, which is the only kind of downfall to it right now. But it does have the OREF forms, which is great. And it sends us an email when they're sent out. And then I have a program in my email that sends it back to me after a couple of days so I can check on them and see where they're at. And then I'm able to go in and resend them if needed and remind the client, hey, we still need these from you guys. And it doesn't let them finish without finishing. It's a complete process of all the explanations and all of the questions answered. Yep. So there's less room for error, and the other side sending them back saying, we need an explanation or we need this. Everything is filled out. And it's just, again, it's so much more user-friendly for the clients that it's worth the extra step.
Yeah. A couple of things I like about it too. It's fully compliant, right? And clients mess this up all the time. Like if you're on this call and you haven't taken a ton of listings, go take a ton of listings. That's awesome. We've got trainings on how to do that. But what I can say is clients always miss stuff on their disclosures. It's insane because there's just too many checkboxes. There's like 3 billion checkboxes on there. Have you ever had a mosquito bite you on the earlobe? Yes or no? I don't know. It's awful. And it's so deep. And it's a very CYA oriented process. It's very legal for anyone who doesn't know. And it's designed to protect the buyer and the seller, frankly, from leaving stuff out, right? What we don't want is a seller being like, I had a huge water leak, but I'm not telling anyone about it. Now they have to sign their name saying, yes, I did, or no, I didn't, right? And that's a very different, when you're having to legally stand behind what's happened at that property, it changes the game. Now, coming back to this, the classic problem with sellers' property disclosure statements is that the client wants you to walk them through it. You can't do it for them, guys. You can't. You can, but you absolutely may not, meaning it's illegal. And so don't. But the beautiful thing is Breeze is a fully compliant way to do this. So I love that. And I love that you brought it up. And I also love that we have access to it through EXP because we're all on SkySlope. So it's incredible. And guess what? AI is going to speed up how great that is, guaranteed. So I'm sure the next several iterations are going to get better. If they don't have it in your MLS or your area, hang on. It's coming. I guarantee it'll be there quickly. So Raymond asks, how would you get past the objection or objective with a client who doesn't want to work with anyone else besides the one that they hired, i.e. the agent? Ray, give me a little clarity on that. You can unmute yourself.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I had one where I was testing the waters just once because I'm a newer agent. So I was like, hey, how would you feel if I had somebody else kind of, maybe you kind of talk to them as my assistant? And they were like, well, no, I'd rather not ever have anybody to talk to except for you. How would you get past that objective?
Well, first off, I'll answer first because I've handled that script about 1 million times. First off, don't ask it as a question, would be my statement. I would just say, fantastic. A member of my team is going to reach out and here's their job. They're going to handle this. And in fact, they're one of the best in the country. And so the reason that we have them is because I'm moving quickly and we want to make sure we don't miss anything. That's going to cost you time and money. And that would be a horrible mistake. So I brought the best industry professionals in to work for you. How's that sound? Right? And then what are they going to say? No, I want you. Okay, well, I'm going to drop things and you're going to lose money. Does that still sound good? Right? It's such an easy, think about if you're at the doctor's office and the doctor says, fantastic, the nurse is going to prep you and get you ready for surgery. Who would ever say, no, I want you to do that? Nobody. Why? Because he doesn't say, is that okay?
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Sometimes it's just about what questions do you ask, and you got to think about that if you really want the answer or not. Jennifer or Renee, do either of you have anything to add in terms of if a client's uncomfortable working with, let's call it leverage, administration, coordination, et cetera? How do you handle that if it arises on a call with you?
I've never had it happen.
Bada boom.
Yeah, I haven't either. I think it's super important to loop them in, maybe on a text or call, and introduce them so they know who they're talking to. I send out a video text just introducing myself and letting them know that paperwork was sent out, so they have a face and a name, and they know I'm with the Rockwell Group, and they know that I'm the listing coordinator. But yeah, I've never had that objection. So I think maybe
Awesome.
Introducing them would be helpful.
Yep. I think, and it's also having that conversation before it's the moment where they need to talk to this person. So early on in your process, Ray, maybe when you're taking a listing, or for anyone on this call where this applies, just simply say, listen, we've got a full team of professionals that are going to be working on your behalf. And what we've done is we've hired every single person to a very specific position so that they can master their position. And that ensures that you get the very best service available in the industry. Right? Don't ask it as a question. Just make a statement, smile, keep moving. Sign here, sign here. All the good stuff that you're good at. And Ray, I know you are good at that because you're taking like 26 listings a day or something like that now. Good Lord, that guy is out there tearing it up, guys. So that's incredible. All right. So now we've hired a person. How do we start to build capacity? How do I ask this? Because one of the things that I see is an agent will say, well, I've got a transaction coordinator, but they're still meddling and they're not releasing, and then they're not using their time appropriately. What are the kind of coachable moments that you believe should exist for agents as they're learning how to use leverage and they're learning how to scale up? It's a bit of a trust fall, right? If you've never done it before, I will say, and you're very used to running your own deals, it's like when you did like a ropes course or summer camp and they had you fall backward in somebody's hand and that person, had like checked their cell phone for a second. Now you hit the ground, right? It's not that. This person's going to catch you, but what are the coachable moments that agents need to hear? Jennifer, we'll start with you.
I'm trying to think. Really, in all reality, the whole situation is just making sure that everybody's aware that we're working with them. That's the biggest thing.
You mean like the client?
And because we have had issues where people haven't told them. So when we're reaching out, that's a big issue.
Yeah, so, it shouldn't be an oh, by the way. Right? Like,
no,
I just took a listing and oh, by the way, now you're only going to talk to Jennifer.
It's very confusing, and then they don't understand what's going on. And it's the very beginning of that process too. So that's the biggest thing that I think is something that that's one of the things I do go over with the clients or the agents is just, hey, make sure they know that we're contacting them.
Yeah. And actually, even going back to Ray's question, I know that for myself, when I'm using leverage, part of what I'm selling are the professionals with whom I'm working, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I'm working with Jennifer, I'm going to say, and I have one of the top transaction coordinators in the country working alongside me as my partner in the business to ensure that we don't miss anything on your transaction. Because one of the things that causes deals to fail more than anything is misses in the paperwork department. And we want to make 100% sure that everything's clear there. So we've hired some of the very best in class people to work alongside us. And Jennifer will be in touch to make sure that everything's coordinated perfectly. If you have any problems, feel free to call me anytime. However, a lot of information is going to come directly through her, right? That's an upsell, not a downsell. Mm-hmm. Right? If I'm talking to somebody and they hear that, they're like, oh man. And I might even say it's 2 for the price of 1. How great is that? Right? It's awesome. It's just selling your leverage. And you have to understand as an agent, your job is to sell them on every piece of your process. If your process is, I'm a flaming shit show, that's not a very good sales pitch. So create some leverage, create some clarity, create some organization in your business. Renee loves organization. I can tell she's always smiling when I say it. But like, get organized. And the best way to get organized is if you're not, bring somebody around you who is. Joanne Graham's got her name or her hand up. Joanne, tell me what's going on.
Okay. So I want to hear you coach agents when they're dealing with somebody like me on the other side of the transaction. Okay. So I don't have a TC, and I don't want to have to keep track of the other agent's TC and who this month I'm supposed to be including on the emails. You know, like when somebody we get into escrow and the other agent, their TC emails me out of the blue and says, I'm the TC for this. Please include me on all correspondence, blah, blah. And I'm like, Angela, who? I mean, I don't know. I might miss Angela's email. I'm not going to try to keep track of Angela.
Yep,
and then
phenomenal.
Do a deal with you. It's going to be Tiffany. I mean, that's one of my pet peeves as a productive agent.
I love it.
Anyway, how do you manage that? Because isn't it your agent's responsibility also to make sure that you get the stuff? So they do have to be checking their email.
Yes.
Catching the stuff that's coming from Angela and whatever, right? Or coming from their other agent on the other side. So I just want to throw that out because that's one of my biggest irritations as being somebody who works with somebody that has a TC.
So I'm tempted to just jump in and answer, but I want to hear from Renee and Jennifer first. How do you think we could get out in front of this problem? Because by the way, that's a classic problem. It is the other agent is finding out way the hell too late that there's now this third party that they're supposed to communicate with. And it creates a lot of stress, especially if the other agent isn't using leverage, because they're like, what, you can't even do your own paperwork? Oh, you're too fancy for that, right? Like there is a bit of a reaction there, which I understand, right?
And what if I'm stubborn and rebellious and I'm not going to think about Angela the whole time?
Or you only want to deal with text messages.
Mary or Tom or whoever it is I put the deal together with.
Bingo.
Care about Angela. So how do you coach somebody who's using your services on that?
I love that. Jennifer, go.
You know, that it is something that comes up often, and generally by the middle of the transaction, the other agent is CCing us because they can see that it's going to benefit them. They're getting a quicker response, or they're getting an actual response at all. Because there's going to be those agents, again, I understand that it is their responsibility, but we're here to help you. It's not just helping TC on one side. We're trying to keep the transaction together for everyone. I've had agents on the other side of things ask me to write addendums for them. So it really does nothing but benefit you to include us. And yes, it is an extra step, but it's better than you either not getting a response, getting a delayed response, or the agent saying they didn't receive it, or did you send it to my TC? And a majority of our emails are going to automatically populate these emails the more you put them in. So if you're emailing Jeff and I'm his transaction coordinator, and you're consistently emailing both of us, it's automatically just going to put us both in there, and you're just going to click that name and it's going to be good to go. Again, I feel like it does nothing but benefit on the other side as well. And it helps the transaction to run smoothly. So if they have a TC on the other end, it's important to get that email to them. And again, yes, it is their responsibility, but a lot of the agents that are hiring TCs are not paying a lot of attention to their email. So things will get mixed otherwise.
That's what's so irritating.
I agree. And I'm on the TC side of it. So, but us not getting the documents and then or title reaching out and saying, hey, where's this price reduction addendum? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, go ahead, Joanne. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say one of the things that is irritating is when the system is so automated, like we literally have a agreement to occupy after closing for 12 days or whatever it is. And the day it closes, the TC emails me and says, okay, get the key out of the lockbox, blah, blah, blah. We're closed. Congratulations. This is our process. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, but that is not going to work on this one. But you're so automated and so with it and so on top of it that you don't even know that the seller is going to be in there for 12 days, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's a big mess.
Part of our calendar. So we're not going to email you and ask you for that. I know that some TCs will do that, but that's not a part of our process.
I love that.
There's an agreement to occupy. We're not going to pester you for keys.
So call Jennifer is the upshot there. If you're gonna hire a TC, hire a good one. I don't know. That's it. Listen, not everything's created equal. The person who graduates last in their class from medical school is still called doctor, right? And ultimately, that doctor, you might not really want to be working with them, especially if you need big help. And this is big help stuff, right? These are huge, huge transactions with a lot of capital moving between parties. There's a lot of legal involved. You want somebody who's a strong professional. So I think that's part of it. I will also mention, Joanne, a huge part of this is on the agent. This is my opinion, right? When I talk to another agent, if it was you and you said to me, listen, I'm really uncomfortable working with a transaction coordinator, I'd say, fine, just email me. I'll forward it every time. It's not a problem, right? Like me operating my inbox is not like a high level behavior. I go boop, 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 forward, Jennifer, done. How long did that really take? And if that's too hard for you because you're too busy as an agent, you're full of shit. I'll be honest with you. That's really what's going on. You're spending too much time doing dumb stuff in your business and you need to get back to work. Your inbox is part of your job. Like if that hasn't dawned on you yet, then figure it out. And I'm sorry if I'm being too harsh, but I'm going to be harsh. Like you need to figure this out.
You should be aware of what's going on in the transaction. Like you have 100%. No idea what stage we're at because your TC's handling everything and you're just off signing listing documents. Yep. I mean, I don't know. It's just.
Now, on the flip side, I will say I'm a strong advocate for leverage in your business. Hiring great leverage is incredible. And if I'm dealing with somebody and they're like, listen, I don't know how I feel about that, I'll say, hey, how about this? It costs me $350 per side. Why don't I cover your side and we can both use Jennifer's services? How would that feel? I've done it before. And I've paid for the other side to have leverage. And then it's their first time ever doing it. And then they realize, oh, this is the holy grail. I feel really good about this. Now, do I really care? No, it's $350. I've spent that on dinner. It's not that big of a deal, right? Like, so guess what? I'm gonna pop that for the other side and make the offer so that they feel comfortable. Why not? It just comes out of my deal at closing. I don't really care. And if it gets them to stop on the other side, then, woohoo, one less thing for me to worry about, right? And now guess what?
One other question.
Yep, go.
I love that Jennifer's licensed, and I think that's the way to go. If they're not licensed, is there this has always been a curiosity to me, like, okay, so I'm handing all of my confidential documents over to this person. My client doesn't know who they are. Why is that even a thing that we could have an unlicensed TC that has access to all of our documentation?
I'll speak from the trenches, and then Jennifer and Renee, I want to hear from both of you on this. I would never hire a TC, or for that matter, I've never had a single admin person who isn't licensed. That's just it's my own personal spin. Now, is it compliant? Yes. If you just read the law, it is absolutely fine. I mean, look, title people aren't real estate licensed and they touch files all day long. They don't need to have a real estate license to be able to look at a file. You have to have a real estate license to practice agency. The challenge is it's a very fine line between not practicing agency and practicing agency, which is why for me, from a liability stance, especially if I'm hiring people, because there's what's called vicarious liability, I wanted those people to always be licensed so that their license would be lost first. No offense, guys. Before mine is if they do something horrifying or egregious and we get sued. That's just my stance. Renee and Jennifer, what are your opinions on licensed versus non-licensed admin, personnel, et cetera? By the way, it can work both ways. And I've seen humongous organizations operating with unlicensed admin and personnel. However, those people are very aware of what their lane is.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this because I'm actually not licensed.
Bada bing, there you go.
Yeah. So I actually went through the whole licensing process and was going to get into real estate. And then I wanted to get a job to learn about real estate before just jumping into it. So then I got a job at Rockball and I just fell in love with the job and had no care to be an agent after that, didn't want to pay the fees. And I think Jake actually preferred that because he didn't want a conflict of interest because I do have access to all of the clients and all that. And he didn't, want me to practice real estate and then also be admin. But it's a little different than transactions. So I do listing paperwork, but there's things that I do not do because of that and things that I won't dabble in.
Yeah. Which makes total sense. And by the way, I have to retract because I believe when I first hired a couple of my admin, they were unlicensed and then they got licensed. So that may be a flip on that. Jennifer, what's your strategic approach to licensed versus unlicensed? And also, are you the only person in your business or do you have leverage inside Expert TC?
I do have a couple of employees.
Cool. All right. So, but I'm curious, licensed, unlicensed?
I don't think, in all reality, I don't think that it makes a big difference whether you're licensed or not, as long as you know what you're doing. I wasn't licensed for the first 4 years that I was working in real estate. And I was doing all the admin work, the listings, the transactions. And it's basically you cannot share anything that's not already common knowledge. So think about it as if it's not public record, you don't share it. That's just kind of the rule that I followed. So I couldn't do any negotiating, obviously. So, but I still don't. So I just don't think that I think I don't want to go both ways. It's nice to be licensed, but I don't think that it's a requirement or ever should be. Because again, I'm not going to negotiate for the agent.
Yeah, that's the critical piece. You can accept information, you can ask questions and get answers and write them down. And if the client says, well, what do you think we should do on blah, 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 you'll have to say, well, let's check with your agent and I'll get back to you. And that's not a problem. That's a great answer, right? Look, if I'm going to see a surgeon and they're going to operate on my knee, and I'm talking to the person at the front desk, right? And that person is awesome, but they're not the surgeon. And that's okay. They may know the answer, but they're still not the surgeon. And I'm guessing medical licensure operates in much the same way. They just know that even though they may know the answer, they may know it better than the surgeon. But probably do. But the reality is they still need to let the surgeon answer the question because of licensure rules, et cetera. Now, somebody asked about management, and I saw the question come through. In Oregon, you can't, so somebody from Oregon, in Oregon, you can't manage a licensed broker without being a principal broker. How does this translate? Well, the truth is if the person's licensed, you're not managing them, right? It's a partnership model because Jennifer, for instance, is getting paid on the deal. She's getting paid, how's it come out, as a referral?
No, it's just going to show there's a transaction part in the SkySlope that asks how much your transaction fee is.
Awesome. So you can tell I know the paperwork perfectly.
Yeah, it just shows up as expert TC on your commission demand. There's no referral needed.
So it comes out on the CDA. Perfect. So that is a pure partnership model. It's not even a referral. So she's not disintegrated from the deal. She's actually integrated into the deal. And so as part of the deal, it's like you're co-brokering a deal together, right? Anyone ever done that? Split a listing with another agent? Same deal, right? You do the paperwork, I'll do the paperwork. That's what we're doing here. It's the same concept. There is technically not a management contract in place and fully legal and valid. So my TC is no longer allowed to be paid out of the transaction per EXP. Anyone else run into this? No, but if that were the case, I'd just pay a referral. I mean, if they're licensed. If they're not licensed, that might be where you're running into problems. That is totally challengeable, I could see. So, and again, this comes down to your level of comfort in your business, right? Jake knows real estate better than I do. So Jake, bringing Renee on, he probably saw something in you and he's like, dude, I need to have her in my business today because she's amazing. That's incredible. And whether you're licensed or not is irrelevant. Jake knows his business inside and out. You're going to have standard operating procedures and you know your lane, right? Which is why you guys are killing it. So this is not a better than or worse than statement, but this does go to the level of your comfort as a solo producer. I would say for those of you who are new to this concept, though, what are we really talking about? Whether or not you could call someone like Jennifer. Jennifer's licensed, so you're good, right? I think that's great. Is your license technically, I'm sorry, private questions, and if you don't like it, then push back. But is your license hung like in the referral division with EXP? How do you?
It's hung as an agent.
Solid. Very cool. Yeah. You could save on your monthly fees, go to the referral division. Anyway, I love it though. That's great. So this is awesome. Now, let me ask you this. If we're bringing in an agent to work with, like, let's say Jennifer, because you're the outsource queen here, and are you able to work with agents from a different brokerage?
It's interesting that you ask. So for a long time, I was told I couldn't, and recently found out that yes, I can. So I am considering bringing on some extra help and starting to reach out to other brokerages. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I know. Technically speaking, from an agency perspective and brokerage law, all 50, it's possible to navigate. It's how the paperwork, it's mostly how money moves that impacts a lot of this, right? We're in real estate, so it's all real estate law. It's not like securities law, but how money changes hands and who's paying whom is important because we need a certain layer of, disintermediation between you and the client, for instance. So So very cool. That's fantastic. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes, and I'm curious if anyone in the who's listening currently on the live here has any questions that you've thought about as you're scaling in your business, and you're like, maybe I'm going to bring on a transaction coordinator, or maybe I'm going to bring in an admin, or maybe you have some of the very best people in the entire world at doing this, and I'm positive that that's true based on these numbers. You guys are absolutely on fire. So Renee and Jennifer, they've got the floor right now. Who would like to ask a question that could help you to build your business? There's no stupid questions. We'll carve the dead space out here. Steve?
I have a topic I'd like to bring up.
Do it.
So, excuse me. And if I missed this earlier, I was about 10 minutes late coming in, but the path to becoming a TC, each one of you, I'm sure, has a different route you took, how the interest or the idea came to be. My wife is a high-level customer success manager for a software company. Her level of detail is off the charts. But working in corporate environment is constant frustration. The goals for the day, they're constantly shifting, all those things. So one day I thought about bringing her on board and getting her into a realm. So I'm thinking, the first step, obviously, for rev share situation, she should be licensed. And then I thought maybe she should work in title, because my TCs come from a title background and their wealth of knowledge is enormous just because they've been there. And our TC, the owner of the company, people like to say about her, she's forgot more about real estate than we all know combined about real estate. So she's just that good. So I'm just curious, how would you recommend? I've seen some programs out there, some short courses people are teaching, other TCs are teaching on how to get into this arena. And then, I don't know, I just like you kind of unpack that for us.
That's a great question.
I feel like everybody learns differently. So it's really how she learns is how you want to get her introduced into becoming a TC. I was thrown in a room and left there alone, literally the first day. So it was just one of those situations where it was sink or swim.
Sounds like real estate.
You what?
That sounds like the path in real estate. So.
It was, but I literally had no idea. Couldn't even get logged into anything. So it was a matter of just figuring it out. Like I said, it was sink or swim at that moment. And that's how I learn. I'm hands-on and I like chaos, which is real estate in a nutshell. It's a constant, just revolving door of good, bad, ugly, everything mixed into one. So like I said, I just kind of jumped in. I don't, and it depends on how she learns. If she's really organized, she might be able to just teach herself. But again, if you want to put her in contact with me, that's fine. You could definitely do that. Just getting an idea of how she would learn best would be where we'd probably want to start.
That's awesome. And awesome. Renee, what about for you in terms of like learning this skill set or learning the processes that you've needed to master to be able to do your job at such a high level? What did that entail for you?
Yeah, I would say it was similar to Jennifer's experience. So just slowly learning.
Thrown in a room.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
Sometimes it's the best way to learn. So
Steve, you heard it here first. Throw your wife in a room. And
right.
Don't literally throw her. Just put her in a room. Let her figure it out.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, are you both with the Rockwell group or no?
I am not.
Just me.
Okay. Understood. Because
Jennifer is with Expert TC.
Rockwell has agents all over the country. Are you only doing in your home state? Or are you helping agents across state boundaries?
All of Rockwell. Yep.
Okay.
And that is actually part of the expansion model. And it's why past a certain point, and I never reached this point with my own growth. So this may actually really reinforce why Renee isn't licensed. You can't be licensed in all, well, I shouldn't say you can't. You're not going to be licensed in all 50 states, right? So at some point in your growth and your scale up, there's going to have to be a separation between licensed personnel and people who can work in all of the territories. And Rockwell has expanded so much, it makes sense that from your seat, Renee, it would be fairly irrelevant for you to be licensed or not licensed, right? So that's interesting. I hadn't even thought of that until just now. So Steve, there are some courses out there. I would actually argue that aligning yourself with somebody who's already done this work, like Jennifer, makes a ton of sense. So you can learn how it is really done at a high level. There's what a course will sell you, and then there's what really happens in the field. And I can also say that I paid for some of those courses for people on my team, and it did zero good. So not to knock any courses out there, I'm not naming the specific courses, but yeah, I would just operate differently. Jennifer, I saw you on mute. Did you have something to add there?
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, I thought you were going to name the courses. I was all excited.
Oh, no, I haven't done any courses, and I don't learn well that way. So yeah, I have nothing to add there.
Yeah. I think one thing that can help, and for anybody who's looking to do this, go shadow teams, big teams. If you're thinking, I would like to grow my team, the most impactful thing that I did as a team leader, and if that's something that you're thinking as, right, was to go shadow teams who were shockingly, like alarmingly more successful than I was. Right? So I'm doing, I did 80 deals last year. Okay, well, this team did 780 deals last year. So let me go talk to them and figure out what's that next level and what's the gap between where I stand right now and where they are, and how did everyone train for that, and how did you get there, and what was the process, and what do I need to know? What am I missing? And there's gonna be 10 million things, and you're gonna be able to implement 4 of them, but keep repeating that process, and that's gonna help you to scale up rather than thinking that it's not going to work. And by the way, is that a trumpet on the shelf behind you? Are you a trumpet player? Dude, that's awesome. Right.
Many years ago, I dug that out the other day. I redid my backdrop.
I'm such a nerd.
And I wanted some things that are just favorite things. So
all right, I'm a band
I first got that. I first got that in the 9th grade in 1980. So 2 of my kids learned on it as well. So
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, so this has been awesome. And I want to pass along your information, Jennifer in particular, because I know we can potentially drum up some business for you. And I'm unafraid to do that. And just for clarity's sake here, I don't have any economic interest in Jennifer's business. I don't have any stake in Expert TC, but I do have a stake in the community, and I want to make sure that everybody has access to top-level professionals. I'm blown away by both of you guys, Renee and Jennifer. You guys are absolutely best in class, world-class, and running top-level organizations. That's truly incredible, and I can imagine how much comes across your desk per day. So first off, thank you from the bottom of my heart for both of you being here today and giving up 90 minutes. I can only imagine the wheels that are going in the back of your brain about all of the crap you got to go do after this call. But you've been very generous with your time. Jennifer, could I share your information with people so that they could reach out? How should they go check out Expert TC and get in touch with you?
I'm going to attach my flyers here if that's okay.
What? It's even better than okay. Yeah, I would love to share that, because one of the things that I know is sometimes it's like, well, I'd love to have a great person, but what I don't want is to have a not great person. And if you've been even remotely conscious throughout this call, you understand both of these ladies are top level professionals who could help you a ton. And so let's get you in contact with somebody who, Jennifer in particular, is outsourcing. And so here we go. We've got some flyers. Let's get these bad boys open. Can I? How do I open this? Oh, there we go. All right, Expert TC, Zubazabazi. There we go. Hold on. Listing coordination, and hold on. Did I open the other one? I feel like I'm missing something. Just a moment. Transaction coordination. Oh, dang! I've got them both. All right, and so you guys grab those flyers, and I'll put a link to these flyers in case you're watching this on the replay afterwards so that you have access to all this stuff. But I'll put them up here on the screen. And also Jennifer's email, which if anybody missed it, she actually responds to emails, which is incredible. That's I know it's unique in real estate. But hold on, it's Jennifer at experttc.com. Well, that's hard to remember. There you go. So if you just want to click that, send her an email right now. I need help is usually the subject line. Help me, I'm drowning. Something along those lines, I'm sure I'll get you started. And so, and I would look at these flyers. Let me put them up on screen really quickly. I'm just doing it. This is a shameless plug because I don't usually plug people on here, but I'm willing to do it here because I'm passionate about getting people started the right way with the right people. So here's transaction coordination. Here's her contact info at the bottom. There you go, phone number and email in case you missed it, pricing, etc. But just remember, this pays out at closing. Jennifer, what happens if a deal falls out? Who gets paid?
If you're not getting paid, we're not getting paid. Bada
bing. And that is what's incredible about this type of leverage, is that if a deal falls through, how much money do you lose?
None.
It's crazy.
Time, but no money.
Yeah. Which also means Jennifer loses time. You guys, this is, everybody's got their, their oars in the water paddling in the same direction, right? And here's the listing coordination. Bada bing. Easy peasy. Reach out, just have a conversation. And again, there's no requirement that you do this in your business. I just tend to think I'd rather you as an agent, and if I'm coaching people, I always coach them in this direction. I'd rather you as an agent have strong professionals like Renee, like Jennifer in your business, helping to ensure that your time is actually being spent doing what? Talking to people. Do people work and hire paperwork. And that's a really, really strong thing. Somebody like Jennifer or Renee's doing like 500 deals a year. Jennifer's doing like, 500 at a time or 150 at a time, right? Like this, it's bananas to think about as an agent. But for strong professionals like this, they have systems and processes to keep themselves organized so that you can be out doing front of house behaviors and talking to people so that they can make sure that the wheels don't fall off the bus, right? And that's a really huge thing. Okay, thank you both so much. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate all of your support, being a part of the community. This is one of my favorite parts of the week. We'll talk to you guys soon. All right, thanks everybody.